I'd rather be a rapper. So shout out Jello and shout out the Kings, how they've been rocking and rolling, doing their thing. And a lot of people were talking about the starting lineup. I'm not as much worried about the starting lineup. I think everybody is going to get their minutes as far as those players that were being discussed in the starting lineup. You have, and by the way, last segment we talked about who the Kings beat and their run, their 5-game winning streak. Is it fraudulent or not? Very good point being made by Bridget on the Sac chat, and we can't forget the Kings weren't healthy, right? No Keegan Murray, their number one defender, and no De'Aaron Fox, their number one player. So obviously this run has not been fraudulent. We still need to see what happens. And I just think that there's still more for them to prove. This is an opportunity. How about that? It's an opportunity for them to go back east, do something that they have not done very often, which is win in Boston, win in Chicago, and win in Milwaukee. You don't have to win all three, but if you can find a way to beat either, you got to beat the Bulls. If you can find a way, or not, if you can just find a way to go 2-1, I think all of us would be very, very impressed with where the Kings are going. But as I discuss the starting lineup, and we did yesterday, what about the rotation in general? And look, I've already gotten in trouble once for trying to read body language, so I really shouldn't do this again. But I did feel like I saw something last game, and it wasn't anything ridiculous, and I am kind of self-proclaimed. I will reach at times, but it did feel like I saw something with Kevin Huerter. If at the very least he was, I don't want to say surprised, but he wasn't thrilled, and as he shouldn't be, right? He's a competitor. He got subbed out at some point, and I even asked Frankie and Brendan, hey, does it feel like the subs are happening quicker than they were with Mike Brown? Is Doug getting more guys in and out and keeping them fresh in that way? And Brendan pulled some numbers as he always does. He said it seems like the way that Doug is subbing is pretty similar to what Mike Brown's been doing. But with Devin Carter now in the mix, okay, and you have Keon Ellis just balling out of control, and you have De'Aaron Fox coming back, I'm struggling with where Kevin Huerter is going to find minutes. That's where I'm at right now. And if you look at what happened, I'm getting the box score right here. If you look at the amount of minutes that Kevin Huerter played against this is a double overtime game against the Miami Heat. Listen to this. A double overtime game against the Miami Heat with no De'Aaron Fox. Kyle, do you know how many minutes Kevin Huerter played?
I do not, but I have a rough guess.
You're probably going to get it right. What's your guess?
I'm going to say 15.
15:09.
Yeah.
Kevin Huerter played 15 minutes, 9 seconds with no De'Aaron Fox in a double overtime game. And I'm not saying this is going to be an issue. Doug has been very good at riding the hot hands. Kevin Huerter played pretty darn well against the Warriors. But as a whole, and look, Kevin has handled this whole thing very professionally in that he's been on the trade market. He's seen his name in talks for 2 seasons now, and he's handled it just about as well as you can. But I do wonder if there's a breaking point for these guys. And when I'm looking at the odd man out in this rotation, you have DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis, Malik Monk, Keon Ellis, De'Aaron Fox when he returns. That's 6. Trey Lyles is 7. You could throw Alex Len in there, who's been getting more time.
Yeah, he's definitely been playing in the first half at least.
He only got 2 minutes against the Heat, but it's kind of a tough go against Bam Adebayo.
It seems like that first rotation is like at the end of the first quarter, Len comes in for Sabonis, and then in the second half, they only put Lyles at the 5 when Sabonis sits.
So then you have 7 that are set, and then from there, you got Kevin Huerter at 8 and Alex Len at 9. We saw Doug McDermott get some time, and I thought that was really telling, even though it was only 1:38. He came in for Kevin Huerter, and that was essentially Doug saying, hey, Kevin Huerter, you're not Kevin Huertering. You're not doing the Kevin Huerter thing, so let's see if Doug McDermott can do the Kevin Huerter thing. And I think Doug Christie's going to do that often. He is coming in to win basketball game. Hey, we're all going to play for each other. We're all going to play for one another. But you have to understand that I am not connected or I don't feel like I owe anybody anything. If Keon Ellis starts struggling, Keon will get the same treatment. So based on, defense doesn't slump. Based on what I'm seeing here, I'm struggling to find minutes for Kevin Huerter.
I agree with that point. Where I will say I'm not sure is we've never seen the Sacramento Kings with this group together yet because Devin Carter hadn't been healthy, right? So now you bring in Devin Carter and Keon Ellis off the bench. You have Trey Lyles healthy now, which Trey Lyles has been sparingly healthy, but the last, 10 games, Trey Lyles has been around. I don't think Kevin Huerter has no role because now that Mike is no longer the coach, 8-man rotations don't have to be the name of the game, right? It was always 8-man rotations. I trust these 8 players, and that's what we're going to go with. And for better or for worse, that was what Mike Brown wanted to go with. 8, sometimes 9-man rotations, and the 9th would either be Alex Len or JaVale McGee. Doesn't mean they can't go back to that now, but maybe there is room for a 9th guy because, as we talked about yesterday, the Kings still have the highest minutes in the league for their starters of any team not coached by Tom Thibodeau. So maybe that means they do trust the bench a little bit more now that they have the appearance of depth.
Yeah, and if you look, Devin Carter only played 10 minutes, but if you figure if Devin Carter, and again, I'm not the one who drafted all these guards and brought in all these guards. That was Monty McNair. If you look at the 10 minutes from Devin Carter, especially with no De'Aaron Fox, you got to assume that 10 minutes goes to Kevin Huerter, and now he's played 25 minutes and not 15.
Yeah, I guess the question is whose minutes would you theoretically take away? And I guess the answer is a little bit from Malik, a little bit from Devin, a little bit from Keon, which makes different rotations, right? Because if we're taking little bits away from everyone, who is Kevin Huerter playing with on the floor? Is he playing at the same time as Devin Carter? Is he playing at the same time as Malik? Is he playing at the same time as DeRozan? Those are questions that I don't think we really have answers to.
I think what it turns into is right now Kevin Huerter, and let us not forget that Doug Christie was in charge of rotations even when Mike Brown was a coach. So anything that you were seeing with Mike Brown, the reason it doesn't look terribly different is because Doug Christie was in charge of it. We're not going to see Kevin get skipped in his rotation yet, but I do think he is on high alert. And there might be a point if he doesn't, he just got a shorter leash now because Devin Carter does more. So if neither of you are scoring, anybody can pass it. If Devin Carter understands the offense, he can pass it around just as good as Kevin Huerter. And then you have what Devin Carter can do on the glass and obviously on the defensive end, even though Kevin is 4 inches taller than Devin Carter. So really position-wise, it shouldn't be the same thing, but and Devin Carter tried to tell us, I can guard 1 through 3, maybe not every night depending on the 3, but I think right now Kevin is still going to get his spot in the rotation, and when he comes in, he'll come in, but I do think he is on high alert to produce in those spots. You're not just going to keep getting those spots, getting your spot in the rotation if you're not producing.
And the other part I would add is Keon Ellis no longer has the short leash, and so I would suspect we are very rarely going to see lineups where either De'Aaron or Keon are not on the floor at any point, which was the case. It used to be they would go like Monk, Huerter, sometimes they would have Jay Crowder or Keegan Murray in there.
Right.
I would suspect almost every time we're going to have De'Aaron and or Keon on the floor at any time, and sometimes they're going to play together.
So yeah, that was something that I noticed, and there are a lot of guys that do a lot of similar things. Now, nobody really does what Kevin does in terms of shooting the ball, besides a Keegan Murray and a Doug McDermott to a lesser degree. But it's just if you're not shooting the basketball and shooting it at a high level, and then it turns into we don't want Kevin to feel like he needs to be selfish and take bad shots. So I think he's in a tough spot, but again, he's been in a tough spot before, and somebody on the Sac Chat said it's a good problem to have. Definitely a good problem to have. But when these talks of trades are being dangled around, I mean, everybody is human, and this thing has got to be rough. All right, we're going to talk about the Kings defensive guard rotation and how it stacks up to other teams in the NBA. Javi, we see you. You kick us off on the other side. Alan Stiles, Sactown.